What's going on, everybody? Today on this show, I wanted to talk about, or I wanted to give you the guide to buying your home, your property, your next investment property. Uh, this one will be just on buying like your next home, but the guide to buying during the coronavirus. This is for your single family home. This is not for, like an investment property or anything like that. This is for you looking to, either upsize, move into a better neighborhood, um, you know, whatever your particular situation is. But this is for you. How do you go about the home purchase, considering the fact that although there is, a lot of, things that are going on, interest rates are still low. Um, and because of that, it still has a lot of buyers in the market. The real estate market has not taken a step back. It's only slowed down transactionally, which we'll talk about, simply because some things are just not open right now. But that's okay. So let's get into this. 5 things that we'll talk about as far as buying your next home during this pandemic. Number 1, check your finances. No, seriously, check your finances. Because, the thing that, and, seize the opportunity, YOLO, whatever you want to call it, but no, seriously, consider your finances. Consider your job, your method of employment, your business. These are things that are going to have to get taken into account simply because when it comes down to your lender, those things are going to impact you and your ability and your credit score. The reality is a lot of liquidity and a lot of money is being sucked out of the market, so the mortgage companies can't be as lenient, which is why they raised the FHA score from 580, a minimum credit score of 580, up to 660. So monitor your finances. Only purchase is if you are in a stable, protected financial position, meaning you have money coming in, you have reserves to the side. I don't recommend this, but if you have access to credit lines, like I said, emergency set aside, assets, equity, different sources of income. Do I recommend that you actually look out into, go out with a purchase? And when doing so, also in this particular case, and I tell this anytime, no matter if this is during the pandemic or not during the pandemic, always consider the monthly mortgage payment. The monthly mortgage payment. Don't go off of what you were pre-approved for. Don't go off of the maximum amount that you can get from the bank. Go off of what the end balance will be. What will be my monthly mortgage as an expense going out on a monthly basis? Does that fit in line with I envision my life like, or where I want to be financially? If all those things check out, cool. Number 1, checked off. Review your finances. Number 2, your lender is going, especially lending now is more important than ever. You picking the right mortgage company is probably the most important decision you will make. And the reason why, and I'm going through it with a transaction where I'm representing the seller and the buyer. It's been a couple of weeks already, and now all of a sudden the buyer has to change mortgage companies. Why? Because the mortgage lender had to change their requirements. Now again, I'm not going to say that it's all the mortgage company's fault, but at the same time, the more reputable companies are a lot more consistent with their lending. And even though there have been changes, they still get the transaction done for you. So make sure that your lender is on top of every single change that goes on. Make sure they have their hands and their pulse on all their investors, because the reality is once you're purchasing a home, they're taking that mortgage, they're giving you the mortgage, right? But at the same time, they're selling that mortgage off to an investor. And it's the investors that at this point have become spooked, rightfully so. So now that forces the banks to have stricter lending terms. So if that is the case, then you have to keep in mind that investors are constantly changing their decisions, changing their, they're fueled with emotion, just like me and you are. So at any time, things can change, and we want to know ahead of time, and we want to know, the opportunity to get locked in, so that way you don't have those issues if those issues do arise. I know mortgage companies, I'm in transactions now where changes did occur. However, the mortgage company, along with their relationship with their investors, were able to keep things the same for that individual buyer. So keep that in mind. That is, the second thing, and probably the most important thing during this pandemic, is picking the right lender. Can't stress that enough. All right. Number 3, after you have gotten pre-approved, everything's all well, it's time for you to now start shopping. You'll connect with your real estate agent. You'll be able to start seeing homes. And I mean that 2 ways. You can see that virtually, or you can actually physically go out, at least when the home is vacant. Now, I recommend that you obviously listen. It's a very touchy time. I understand that. Some people don't mind going out with gloves and a mask and viewing vacant properties. That's more understandable than viewing properties that are inhabited or tenant occupied. So I get that. And then worst comes to worst, what I'm seeing people do, as well as myself, is we're doing virtual tours, and the agents are going out for their clients and previewing and touring the home for you. And then if it's something that seems like it's extremely interesting, then you'll set up a showing on the side. Maybe the sellers, if their people are there, they'll leave out for, a little bit, maybe go get some fresh air or go for a run or something like that. And then you'll be able to check out the property by yourself. But again, take health precautions. These are things that should not be taken for granted. But at the same time, I understand that there is still activity and people are still ready to buy homes and sellers are still ready to sell their home. And that's just where we're at. Outside of that, the fourth thing, so that was the third thing, when it comes down to just viewing properties. And then the fourth thing is, transaction management wise, just make sure that your agent is doing everything that they can to keep you 2 steps ahead, considering the fact that you're dealing with the seller's agent, the buyer's agent, you, the other party, the attorney, the mortgage officer, the title company, the city, the appraiser, the surveyor, the title. Like, there's so many moving parts. So making sure that your agent stays on top of that, so that way you can stay ahead as much as possible, so that way there isn't too many delays. The reality is there's going to be a lot of delays. And that's the fourth thing. And then the fifth thing is, when it comes down to closing on your new property, when you move in, wipe that whole thing down. That's it. Wipe the whole thing down. Kleenex, all that, quarantine, all of it. All of it. because Lord knows. So those are the 5 things just for the individuals that are looking to still potentially take advantage of the swing market. And another thing is just the fact that, which is something that I'm looking for, is that 2 things. One, I don't think we're at the point where people are unloading their homes and there's a surplus of inventory, and homes are selling for 70 cents on the dollar, and they're that we're not at that point yet. Real estate is still pretty strong. However, point number 2 is that there might not be nowhere near as much competition because people are staying indoors. So you might have an opportunity to take advantage of a market that's hot, but now we kind of have a vibe of the holiday season where there's not been that much, not as much activity. But at the same time, I would even say it's worse because nobody's moving. Nobody's moving. So look to take advantage of that opportunity if possible. And, that's something I'm telling my clients as we, safely continue to execute, continue to find homes, to find, that buyers can call home and turning a negative into a positive. Prayers go out to everyone that's been affected by this, and then prayers to everyone that are also looking to turn a negative into an awesome positive. So that is the guide for buying during this pandemic of Corona. Yeah. Be sure to, just follow those steps and you'll be all right. Austin Smith with Austin Smith Real Estate, signing off.